Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Hey, welcome to Sunday Sitting with Sisters. I am back in the building, and I am with the one and only Miss Shanda. How you doing, beautiful?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. It's so nice to see you.
I know. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I love you forever in the next life too. So thank you so much.
How long have I known you, Shanda?
So I'm going on 37. I met you when I was 14.
Whoa, wait. You 37?
I'll be 37 next month.
You cannot be 37.
I'm about to, I swear. I can't believe it either.
I cannot believe you're 37.
I can't believe it either because I don't feel 37, but I have to admit the truth. I've been here for quite some time, so I got to admit the truth and age gracefully.
Like you know, for real, but I'm not saying it. I still remember when you was like
a little
16.
One.
You know what I mean? Right? When you was in high school.
In high school, in the 10th grade.
Yes, I remember that. Wow. How do you feel being older? Like, how do you feel?
Oh, so you know what? I'm not gonna say I feel like an elder because I don't want to disrespect nobody. Like that are my elders.
To somebody, you are an elder, though.
Yes. So I've been meeting young ladies, and I've been helping young men too, because I used to just be all about the girls.
Right.
Because that's just me. I'm not being mean, but I was all about the ladies, the girls, little girls. But then I realized, oh, these young ladies need to talk to these young boys. So I better be trying to like talk to them too, because they're going to be talking to my daughters or my nieces and little cousins or whatnot. So now I've been embracing everybody. But I always see like young people, and I'm like 17 years older than somebody, or somebody is 4 years older than my daughters. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm really getting up there. I've never been like 17, 18, 20 years older than somebody. That's crazy to me. Even though my kids, I am 22 years older than them. But just to be like in public and young people working and stuff like that, and I'm meeting them in their workplace or just in public, I'm like, wow, I'm really older than you. And so I do try to drop like a hug or the auntie, hey, baby, everything is going to be okay. You know, I find myself doing that. I was already that way anyhow.
I was saying that you've always been like that.
Always. Now that I'm a little older. Yes. But now that I'm a little older, it actually makes sense. Because when I used to be their age or 17 to 18 saying it, they're like, she trying to holler. But now that I'm older and they're like, oh, that's my auntie. That's an auntie. And I'm like, yes, I'm your community auntie. No problem. So yeah, I've been embracing change, and I've been embracing being in my 30s, going towards 40. Not trying to take anything from what I've learned, just gaining and healing, and also trying to touch those as I go along, as I've always done. But now I'm a
Yeah.
little deeper with it. Yeah, now it's a little deeper because I understand better too. So I try to be the voice of reason and helpful as much as I can to everybody, boys included now.
Right. Let's back up a little bit. Let's back
Uh-huh.
up a little bit. So when you were, say, I don't know, like your high school years and back,
Hmm.
what would you say Shanda was like? What was little adolescent Shanda, you little young teenager Shanda like?
Well, number one, I was always about my business. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Always about
Oh,
my business, always moving forward, whatever that meant. I was always trying to move forward. I may not have known where I was on my way to, and I may not have had all the resources or the education to get where I wanted to go, but I knew I was going somewhere. So that's one thing, moving forward. Number two, always rooting for the underdog. Always. There
mm,
was never a dull moment that I didn't have the person that maybe they felt less of themselves, or maybe they weren't the popular kid, or maybe they weren't the most cute or dressed nice or whatever, back in the days in high school and stuff. I would always befriend those kinds of people.
mm,
Always. I always would like make it my business to go talk to the girl who's in the corner who was no one talking to help the young man in my math class or English class that nobody was like talking to. I made it my business.
mm,
Hey, how you doing? How are you? My mom always told me to humanize people.
mm.
Everybody's a human. We all deserve love. We all deserve a human touch. So I would always try to do that. I
That's
would
it.
always try to be the person to be there for somebody. Number three, sis would pop off. So don't try it. I wasn't known for fighting at school, but don't try me. Like, please don't. Like, do not try me and my crew. I won't name the girls because I'll leave them out. But my crew, it was a few of us. Leave us alone. Do not play with us. Don't try us. Don't do it. Don't look at us. Don't take our money. Don't cut us in the lunch line. None of that. Because as much as I was sweet, I was strong and I could fight. So look
There you
at
go.
little me. Oh
Look
my
at little
God.
Shanda. Look at
Oh my God. That little girl right there. Jesus, give her the strength. That little baby. I loved butterflies and horses. Right there in that photo, I was at a family reunion. That was in 99, right before I
Wow.
started my high school in at Johnson. This was the summer. I had came over there to see my family in August. And that summer, I never went back to LA that summer. That
Ah,
summer started my career in my history in Sacramento, California.
wow.
Um, yeah, so that day right there, I was with my cousins. We were at that Fremont, the park right there by the Sacramento Zoo and all that. That's where we were at.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, right on
Somerville.
Freeport. We were
Mm-hmm.
right there, and I had a ring on every finger. I had 37 bracelets on this hand and a watch, and I had 14 on this hand. Why, I don't know. I just was always big into numbers, and so I would always wear even numbers
Mm-hmm.
on my bracelets. And then one lady told me, if you keep them even, then you don't have room for more. So you have to keep it odd so you can always add one. So then I started wearing 36 and 13 on my
Wow.
wrist. Yeah. And then the picture to the right, that was my complete first year of being in Dallas. So that year, the girls and I had went through some triumphs, but that was the year that I had started getting things together. We had a place. We were coming out of COVID. Not that we were, but Texas was different. So we only visited with COVID for a few months and then we came back to normal. So we were experiencing our COVID situation. And I was just embracing my change right there. And I was happy. And I think I was actually headed back to the kids' school to drop off some donations of food that they needed for their volleyball team to sell on that photo right there. So if the math is right, I'm 14 on the left and I am 36 on the right. Well, excuse me, 35 on the right. Because I hadn't had my 36th birthday yet. Yep. Because
Now,
that
now,
was
now, Shanda, when you was, what was your high school years like? Like, what was
so
that like?
okay. Not without crying, because I don't want anybody to feel sad. I'm not here to be sad. But my high school wasn't a very in the beginning, it didn't start off on the right foot. That's why I ended up meeting you. And that's not negative, because meeting you
No,
was
right.
the best thing in my life. But that, like I said, that 14-year-old summer, I moved to Sacramento. My mom had become sick, and I didn't know all the details at that time. So when I moved from Los Angeles to Sacramento, it wasn't because I wanted to, by no
Mm.
means. It was truly by force. It was truly by force. I did not, I hated Sacramento. I probably still do a little bit, but I didn't, I did not, I was rebelling. Okay. I was like, heck to the no, I don't want to live in Sacramento. What are you talking about? I'm an LA kid. I don't do Sacramento. So my beginning of being there was rough for me because I was coming from LA, and LA was rough and it was tough, and you had your skin, but I was still girly. And so I would dress different from everybody else. And the kids in Sacramento weren't used to the style, and they would stare at me, and I would be like, y'all want to fight? You want to fight? What the F is your problem? Ready to fight. Because in LA, you can't stare at people. You can't be like, because that's like an insult, right? So you have to look at somebody in LA and compliment real fast or turn your face. It's just a respect factor that's not spoken. So when I moved to Sacramento, everybody be like, so one day I popped off, and the girl was like, she had an attitude with me too. I was like, what is your problem? Why are you staring at me? And she was like, well, I was staring at you, started crying, because I liked your hair, but you're mean. Like that. And it hurt my feelings, because I'm not mean in my mind. I'm not mean. So when she did that, it hurt. I was like, Shanda, you made somebody cry. And then I was like, wait, come back, come back. I'm sorry. I'm like, I just need to calm down. I probably need to calm down, because I'm thinking you staring at me to hurt me, because that's where I'm from. That's the neighborhood I'm from. That's what you do when you're ready to intimidate somebody or cause some stress with them. You stare them down. You're looking at me because, of course, at this time I had a little bow tie on, some knee highs, a plaid skirt, and a long button-up shirt, and my hair was up in a palm tree, literally. Like I had it all up and then down in the back. So of course I look different, right? So they're like, no, we thought you were beautiful. We were admiring your style. We never seen anybody look like you before. So we like how you are. We like the way you present yourself. And I'm like, wow. So I met Miss Brown. So Miss Brown was the one who got me. She was like my mom, my voice of reason at that moment, because my mom wasn't around. I had moved in with my two sisters. They were not ready for me. They were in their late 20s, early 30s. They were not prepared for me. I was a 14-year-old. I knew what I wanted. I knew my attitude. I knew where I was going, you know? So it wasn't they couldn't tell me anything, but you're not going to just tell me anything. You could tell me something, but you got to make sure you know what you're talking about, because I do know what I'm talking about also, because I've been out here, you know, and coming from LA, it's a very fast paced city. So y'all slow in Sacramento, not for real, just in my opinion.
No, no,
I'm
no, right?
like, I'm like, they don't know what they talking about. You try to put me in harm's way, baby. I'm not going, you know? So my attitude was feisty. I was always on the defense. Don't try it, because I got you, you know? So I had to meet people in my high school career that were kind to me. And then I'll never forget, I met some guys, and their mothers took to me because I didn't have a mom. And I'm ever grateful for Miss Brown, for Miss Claudette, and Miss Diamond. Those are the two people, the three ladies at the time before they introduced me to you, who got me to calm down, because I was like crying all the time, very disrespectful to myself and to the teachers that were like trying to help me, because they didn't really understand my story, because I was in high school, but I probably should have been in the 10th grade, because I came from a higher level, but really my age was ninth grade. But according to my report card and my grades, I should have been in the 10th. So they were trying to help me place myself, and I just had an attitude. I was just mean and miserable. But the truth was, I was hurting because my mom wasn't around, and I didn't know where she was, and nobody was explaining nothing to
What
me.
was your mom?
So she ended up being in that mental hospital right there in Auburn off the Highway 80. But I didn't know that. So what ended up happening was she had a mental illness or a mental breakdown, bipolar schizophrenia. But the cause of it, before that, she actually had a health condition called fibromyalgia, which we were aware of. Didn't know all the terms at the time, but we knew something was wrong. So we would get with my mom and take her to doctors and stuff like that. And she started to like decrease in her health. And that was like in 94. So we knew something was wrong. So we were trying to get her helped and get it worked out. So it turns out by 99, 2000, she had a hole in her heart. So when she ended up, she was smoking marijuana with some friends and they laced her marijuana with heroin. So that made her trip out. So I went from, hey, mom, I'm in Sacramento with Valentina, come get me. Like, I'll be at the airport. I'm coming home on this day or whatever. Come get me, to being like, my mom not answering. My mama not answering. Where is my mama? Hello. And then I did go back to LA because that was my plane ticket. I went back. My auntie picked me up, my mom's best friend. She picked me up. But we went to my mom's house. It wasn't no mom's house. None of that we knew of was there. So then I had to call my sister. So that's how I ended up having to come back to Sacramento. So it was literally by force. So my mom, because what happened? She had gotten on heroin. They put her in the hospital. They weren't telling me anything because, like I told you, I will pop off. They know that. So in LA, they made me go back to Sacramento. So my sisters went back to LA and took care of my mom. They brought my mom to the mental place over here in Auburn because she was tripping out. But they let her out of the hospital in LA and then they brought her to Auburn. But still nobody would tell me where my mom was. I think they probably were trying to protect me, they thought, but they weren't protecting me because my mom needed my help and I knew that. And so they harmed my relationship. Because at this point, I'm like, did she just leave me with these people? Did she just abandon me? This husband of hers already did that when I was 7. So now 7 years later, she come doing it in my mind. Oh, I'm upset. You see what I'm saying? Not that it's true, but that's how it felt because they weren't being honest with me. So finally, when they finally told me where my mom was, I immediately went up there to catch the bus. I did. I ain't lying. I caught the little 81, took my little bus. Yeah, I knew where I was at. So I took the 104. I took my little buses to get from Sacramento to get to the Auburn or whatnot, from Arden and all that. And I went to go see my mom, and that would be a frequent visit once I figured out where she was. So it helped me calm down a little bit more. But of course, nothing takes away the absence of your mom. Nothing can replace that because you need somebody to talk to. You need somebody to help guide you through the days and to get you where you need to go. You need a little shaping, and I didn't have that. So, my 9th grade year definitely for me was a wash. I did good, but it was a wash. 9th grade was attitude, rebellion, confusion, hurt, sorrow, just disappointment, sadness, you name it. So that was my beginning of my 9th grade year. And I experienced with my mom just before that situation in 9th grade. My mom and I spent the night at a friend's house. And this is when I learned my mom had a problem. I had went over my friend's house. I literally did accidentally spend the night. I started watching Titanic, and her and my friend and my mom and her mom and I fell asleep on the couch. So I was like, going 14, and I never spent the night nowhere. So I came home and I turned the ringer off on the phone, which was my mistake because I tried to act like I called and called and called. I panicked and she didn't answer. So I just wanted to make it like I didn't want to come home in the dark. But really, I should have just said, hey, mom, I fell asleep, because my mom likes honesty. But I didn't think that. I thought, okay, let me just try to frame a scene. So I framed the scene and then it did not work out. So my mom was really upset with me. So like, let's say that was in May or something. So she whooped me, and it wasn't just a random whooping. It wasn't no like pop, pop, pop. It was like she literally got with me because I was 14. So I was taller than my mom and thin. So she felt intimidated, I guess. So she didn't just whoop me. She wanted to make a lesson out of me because at that time I used to be the president of the youth choir at my church and stuff. And then I was like always volunteering in the community, and all the little kids used to look up to me and stuff. So my mom wanted to make me an example out of me. So she whooped me at home. Then we got to church on Sunday and she whooped me again for real at church. And then After that, they took me to Skid Row and wanted me to just kind of experience how Skid Row was and just kind of like see, like, if you keep going down the wrong path, this is something that might happen to you. So that was a very scary experience. That happened in May, and then turn around in August, I ended up having to go to Sacramento. So ninth grade, like I said, was a very emotional time for me, very traumatic experiences for me personally. And then I tried to like deal and cope, but the situations just seemed to keep getting worse. They didn't seem to get better until I went to the 10th grade. So like my ninth grade summer, things started to look a little better. But that first ninth grade year was bad. 99 to the early 2000 till about September 2000 was just terrible for me.
Y'all, we're taking a pause. Don't go anywhere. We're taking a pause. We'll be right back with this conversation. We are joined by Shanda Jones, who is talking to us about her experience in coming of age. And I thought this conversation was very important because most times we don't get to hear young women share their story about how they come of age. And I think what's so important about sharing. Sorry, Shanda, I'm gonna have to edit that out part, so don't worry about it.
Fine.
I had to. Somebody came to the door. Okay,
so you're okay.
So you guess.
That's why I was just being quiet. That way you can.
No, he was great. So, and I can edit that little piece out. Okay. So with that, next, how did you, when you now that you know that information, how has that impacted your ability to parent?
Good question. So I might cry.
That's okay, girl. This is Sunday Sit with Sisters. Because right now somebody's listening to this and this is their story, or they may be able to relate to that. People think it's only happening to them.
True.
So,
oh Lord. So, as a mom, I've always made sure that I was there. Period. Even if it's a piece of me, I try to be whole as much as I can. But if I can't be a whole, I at least try to make sure for my daughters that I'm there.
Right
on. Definitely not perfect. By no means. I'm definitely not perfect. With the things I've been through, I talk to my girls a little bit as they're getting older about it. But I'm definitely protective of them. I'm definitely emotionally available for them, and I'm definitely physically available for them. So with the things I've experienced, I make sure that I like organize my time and my freedom. I don't try to spend the night out. I try to be home by 10 or 11 so they can see a face when they wake up and see a face when they go to sleep. I just try to be available. Now, sometimes like I may go out with my friends and they understand that. Now they're 14, because now that they're 14, it's different because they're going on 15. But before that, so let me back up a taste. Before my daughter's teenagers, you could just forget it. If they couldn't go, I'm not going. Because I don't have anyone to keep them. I don't have anyone to like babysit for a few hours or something like that. So if I couldn't go, they can't. If they can't go, I can't go. Because where am I going that the kids can't go? So it's just impacted me to make sure that I remain open-minded with them. And definitely impacted my decisions on who I am as a person and how I conduct myself. I always tell the girls that I do have dreams and aspirations, but sometimes my personal goals may impact them in a negative way because they won't have anybody to be there for them. And right now they need somebody, as far as pick up, drop off, because they're going to a dual program They're doing high school and college. And so I always tell them, like, I've been offered different positions with different companies, but they always want me to be away. I always have to go away for a month or two. And I know that if I do that, my girls will not succeed. They will be in a position to
Mm.
fail. So I told them that I'm making a conscious sacrifice to sit back for a few minutes and let you soar and be the person you need to be. Not me, be yourself. It's not for me. So whatever dream or goal that they have, I just
Mm.
support it. You
Right
know,
on.
I'm not pressuring them to be nothing that I was or wasn't. I just want them to be who they are and who they want to be, and I support that. So whatever they need of me and from me, I do it.
So, did you eventually, in your teenage years or thereabout, go back and live with your mom? Did she ever get out? For y'all to live together as a family again, or?
So when I was 14, my mom did come out of the mental ward over there when I was 17. So she got a house for us in the Valley High area, but I had been living in Rosemont. So I tried to stay with my mom for 1 year. It didn't pan out. We were not getting along. And I didn't like her son, which is my brother, but I'm just saying it from a 17-year-old perspective, not like me as an adult. But at the time, I did not like my mom's son. So when I went home, he came home too. That's his mom. We're 10 years apart. So he felt like he wanted to be with his mom. So we were all there together. But I didn't feel like we should coexist. So I moved out because I was unhappy with the whole situation and how everybody was addressing me and handling me. And I felt uncomfortable. So I moved. Um, my mom, yeah, I tried to go to high school too. I was gonna like moving. I was supposed to move from Johnson to go to Valley High because I had to catch the bus and it was taking a long time to get to Johnson from
Mhm.
Valley High. So my mom was asking that I should go to Valley High School. But because we had already had such a rival with Valley High and Luther Burbank and all that from the basketball squads and all that stuff, it was funk on sight. So when I walked onto the campus, the girls that see me was like, "Oh, they're that," and I was ready to. So my mom had grabbed me by the back of my neck and hair for real, literally. We didn't even get on the campus good. We were on there for 2 seconds for real because it was their lunchtime and the principal was taking us around in like the 11th grade area.
Mhm.
And as soon as I got on campus, because the girl was talking, I said, "What you say?" And my mom was like, "Oh no, oh no." Snatched me up and we never went back. So that was my 2 seconds at Valley High. My mom was like, "Oh no, she can't go here. We're gonna have to give her inter-district transfer. She'll have to stay at Johnson because this ain't working. This ain't gonna work because I can't have her up here fighting because she will fight. So we need to just keep her where she is." But I ended up going to McClatchy. I didn't even want to go back to Johnson. I ended up asking to go to CK McClatchy. So that's how I did that. But yeah, I did try to stay with my mom. It never worked out. So from that day forth, let's pan to 27. So 10 years later, 27, my mom ended up passing away. So I never got to rekindle that moment of mother daughter
Mm.
ever. I never got it back. I built a relationship with my mom emotionally over the phone because I wasn't in Sacramento anymore. So we would talk every day, all the time. So there was like, I had an emotional relationship with her. But as far as physical support, nah, it never happened for me after that.
What about when you went off to college?
When I went off to college, my whole family thought I was lying. They did not support me. They thought I was lying. They literally did thought I was lying. So I everybody like, "Hey, I'm leaving in the morning. You guys should come say bye or whatever. If you want to see me." One of my aunties came. My one aunt, I guess, knew, she felt it in her spirit that I was being honest. So she came by and I went by my mom's house to say goodbye to my mom and like everybody in the neighborhood, all my little nieces and cousins in that area, and then my big sisters as well. But like I said, no one believed me. So when I left, like a couple days passed by, and they were like, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "I'm in North Carolina," and they're like, "Where are you at?" "I'm in North Carolina." "What you doing in North Carolina?" I'm like, "I'm at Bennett on campus." So even that was an experience because everybody's mom and family were there helping them pack and helping them load and unload and move in and shopping. And there I was, a little 19-year-old girl by herself from California. I drove my little Mustang all the way from Sacramento to North Carolina by myself. So that was an experience um, for everybody when I got there. They were like, "You drove this car by yourself?" Some of the moms were crying. "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love to drive." And they're like, "Baby, come here. You're not okay." And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." But I wasn't okay. But I didn't know I wasn't okay because at that time, all I always knew was survive. I didn't know to embrace living or whatever the enjoyment may be. I didn't know what that was. I just knew that I had to survive and I had to be up and in the mind state to do such. So I guess I didn't give myself a chance to cry or to feel or to deal. I just knew you got to keep going. So that's what I did. Um, but moving forward, going back, but moving forward, um, I always knew something was wrong, just never knew what. So I always have talked to you and other people that I felt safe with and expressed complete whatever I'm going through. And then you all would give the proper guidance or the tools that I needed, and then I would be able to move forward. So I never not thought I didn't need therapy. I just didn't know what I was going to go to therapy for, if that made sense. I didn't know
No, it
like
makes
what
total
topic.
sense.
Yeah, some people are like, "Oh, well, I had drug abuse," and then you could go for drug abuse.
Yeah.
But
That's
that
simple
wasn't
right
my
there.
thing.
I'm not
Yeah,
saying like that, but it's kind of simple because it's like an obvious issue. But
yeah.
I think the most difficult issue is the ones you really can't see and that we normalize
Mm-hmm.
trauma.
Mm-hmm.
We act like trauma is a part of culture.
And it's
Like,
not.
oh, yeah, be like, "Oh, girl, please, everybody do crazy." Look, no, boo, you're
No.
not supposed to be doing that.
And see, and I knew that because my sister's husbands, all of my sisters at the time had white husbands or white fathers of their kid. So the white people weren't like that at all. And I'm like, something ain't right because I'm going through this here, but these white folks ain't. So this can't be, something is off. And I just didn't know what it was. But I'm like, something ain't right because when I'm with these people, this don't happen. But when I'm with these people, all this here happens. What's going on here? So I knew, like I said, I knew something was wrong. I just never
That's a
knew
good
what. I
analogy.
couldn't be like, "Hey, they smoking weed over here, and over here we're drinking tea." Like, I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew,
Real talk.
I just knew something was wrong, and I don't know what.
Yeah.
Because over there at the white folks' house, they teaching me how to do like etiquette and how to speak, and we're practicing our speeches and how we're going to project our voices and pronounce our words and how to be firm and give a strong handshake, right? And over here, y'all can't eat that. Y'all better put. And I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
wait. Grandma Sarah said we can have anything we want in this house, and you gonna tell me that I can't have the little stupid brownies, little Debbie's? Are you kidding me? So I would be in two different lifestyles, and it was just driving me crazy, And then coming from my mom, being the only kid at home, I won't say spoiled, but my mom was free. Like, yeah, bring your friends, come over, enjoy yourself, play with your Barbies. I cooked some chicken for y'all, So coming from her being a sweet mother to these outside people who are rude, I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be life because no, ma'am, what is this?
So Shanda, where is your dad in all of this?
Now listen here.
No, really, that's really
no, because I beat him up. Let me play some. Jesus, give me the strength. My father, okay. I'm gonna be the nicest I can be. My father, I don't know if it's true or if it's a lie, but my father was on drugs. Now, some would say he started drugs 96, 95. Some would say that. I'm going to say he had been on drugs the whole time. That's what I'm going to say as his child. I'm going to say that he'd been on drugs all of the time my mom knew him. But for safekeeping, because I was only 3 and 4 years old, I'll just say at 7, he was on drugs. So from 7 years old of my life until my father turned to 05. So from, what was that? 92. Yeah, from like 92 to 2005, my father was on a vengeance somewhere on drugs. In 2005, my mom ended up getting sick, and my mom was still married to my father. So my mom asked us to find my dad because she was afraid this was going to be her first open heart surgery. So she decided to say, you know what? Let's find your dad in case something happened to me. I want him to know and you to be okay. Okay, cool. So we looked for my father. This guy told his woman to send my mom an obituary.
What?
He faked his death. He had the lady, when we called him, he told the lady to tell us that he was dead. I'm serious. And they sent my mom an obituary. My mom got the mail because when we talked to the lady, my mom was like, ma'am, I'm not trying to cause no trouble. I'm just looking for Kevin. She didn't even say her husband. She just said, I'm looking for Kevin. Girl, the lady was like, oh, Kevin is dead. He died a year ago, blah, blah, blah. My mom was like, Kevin did not die. If he died, I would have known it. The lady was like, no, he did. I'll send you the obituary. Literally, they cooked up a whole obituary, sent it to my mom. So when my mom opened the mail, she's like, Shanda, look at this. And I'm like, She's like, Kevin ain't dead. She's like, that man ain't dead because if he was, I would have felt it. That's what my mama said. She said, if that man was dead, I would know in my soul that man is not dead. Now hold on to your thoughts because that's in 2005. Period.
Oh, God.
Life goes on. My mom passes away in 2013. Remember, I told you that's her husband. So my mom was a nurse growing up. She was always in the nursing field. At this time, she used to work at UC Davis as the head charge trauma nurse at the trauma center in UC Davis Medical Center. So they would give them a living stipend and a pension also. So they have their money to live because they came from Reno. So my mom had the pension for living because we moved from Reno to Sacramento for her to be a to be a nurse, to be their head nurse. So they gave her 2 paychecks, one for her hours that she worked and then one of a living stipend. So as my mom got older, she retired, but they kept the living stipend going and they gave it to your surviving spouse. And she also worked at UC at a St. Mary's hospital in Reno. So they would give her a stipend there too. So mom was getting about $7,000 a month. And now she's gone. Cost of living has gone up. So has the money. So my father decided, somebody from St. Mary's called my dad because they wanted to talk to him and they wanted to make sure they wanted to find him because now it's buku. It's a buku amount of money because it's been almost going on 9 to 10 years. So they want to pay whoever they can pay this money. So they find my father, who's not dead.
Oh, wow.
At all. So he comes to Reno. We have family there. He goes to my auntie's house. My auntie tells him where all of us are because she's my great aunt. She's my mom's dad's sister. So he goes over there. He sees them. She knows everything about us. She tells him where we are. I'm at AT&T in Sacramento. I open up my back door from the auditor station. I'm looking at my dad.
What?
I almost passed out. My dad didn't know I worked at that AT&T. He came there because it was the closest thing to Reno, and he was trying to get a cell phone. So when I came outside, no lie, no one knew. I didn't even know he was my dad. So when I came from the back room, I came from the auditor side because at that time I was an auditor. So everybody who wants to get a phone, they have to go through me. So I had the key to open up the phone. So I was giving one of the sales reps a phone to give to my dad, but not knowing it was my dad. So I opened up the door to go out and I freeze. And I ran in the back. I told the other girl, I said, you got to go help them. I'm tripping. That's what I told her. I was like, I am tripping. I need a moment. So they help him. And I grab the guy, I go, who's that guy right there that you're helping? And the guy goes, yeah, it's some guy named Kevin Stewart. I was like, okay, I'm not tripping. That's really my dad. And I told them, I go, that's my dad, you guys. I go, my dad. And they went, you told us your dad was dead. I said, I know. But my mama told me that she felt that he wasn't dead. She said that, y'all. My mama said that. So I'm like, oh my God, my mom knew, bro. Like she freaking knew. What am I gonna do, y'all? And they're like, well, we can't close the cell until you can close it out or whatever. And so you have to help anyway. But like just hold your composure. So I tried to embrace my dad with open arms. Because I'm like, okay, fine. I know you was on drugs. I knew that part. I
Did
knew
you tell him it was you?
he didn't know. But when I came out, I walked up to him and I was like, hey, Kevin. And he was like, I was like, it's Shanda. And he's like, and I'm like, yeah, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I was just getting a phone. And I'm like, yeah, but why you at my store getting a phone? And what he said matched up because he's like, well, I just came down from Reno, and this is the first AT&T, and it is the first AT&T because Verizon is up in the Auburn area on Highway 80, but AT&T is on Madison and Greenback.
Right.
So he was telling the truth. Okay, because we do prepaid phones at AT&T. Verizon did not. At that time, you had to be like all in their little network or whatever.
Right.
But AT&T will allow you to bring any phone in and you can get a SIM card for it, and you just paid a little monthly fee, and no one else was doing that at that time. So he was telling the truth. So I spared him, and he's like, well, how you been? I'm like, I don't know how I've been, because where have you been? And then
So you haven't seen him since how many years when you seen him?
7 years old. And at that time, I was 33. So 27 years had went by. Wow. So first, I was happy to see him. No, I wasn't happy at first on site. I was dismayed. Number 2, I tried to be forgiving. Like my mom would say. My mom would be always like, forgive folks. So I tried to forgive him. And then at that time, I was dating a guy. So the guy that I was dating was like, okay, you know what? Well, let me talk to your dad. Let me fill him out, make sure everything, because we had a family going. So he's like, I don't want to just bring the guy to the house and meet the girls and other grandbabies and stuff if this fool is crazy. So let me fill him out. Let me take him to lunch or something and fill him out and see if this guy is safe to be around you guys. So my dad didn't take long to tell us the point of why he was looking for us. The purpose of him visiting was because he wanted information about my mom so that he could get her money. But there's only one person, which is me, who has the answers. Even my siblings don't. And I'm not going to give it to nobody. When I ask my dad, I say, hey, what's your intent with the money from my mom? He goes, oh, well, I'm gonna open up an apartment complex because, like I told you, it's a buku of money. He said, oh, I'm going back to Philly. No disrespect. I'm going back to Philly to open up an apartment complex. I said, oh, that's cute. I said, so who you gonna let oversee it? You gonna let some of the proceeds come, not even me, to the grandbabies or something? The great grandbabies, like give them a little coin of each, each of them a little savings account. The money could come in for them. They could disperse it how they need to when they get older. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I have my own niece and nephew to take care of. I said, okay, Kevin, you're done here. You're done. Because over my dead body, I go, you were not there for my mom at no point. I'm not even going to talk about me because my whole life could have panned out differently if only you would have taken me back to your family's house, or if you would have just been there. Hell, you could have been on crack, but you could have also overseen that these people don't treat me bad. So you just neglected the whole situation. You negated being a father, a grandfather, all of the roles that you had to play. Wow. I'm not happy with you, but I'm not dealing with you on my own strength. I'm going to deal with you as if my mom was here, because my mama would have probably beat me had I been disrespectful. She would have popped me in the mouth or something. No matter how old you are, your mama can hit you and it hurt. So I was always trying to be respectful of my mom because she was gone. But it was very difficult for me. And my dad decided that he was just going to come in like nothing was wrong. So in his mind, he told us that he had been clean for 20 years. Mind you, I told you that I was 7. So you've been clean for 20 years. So that means for 7 of those 20 years, you were on drugs, but you cleaned up for 20 years. So why you didn't come back to find us? Because had he come back, that would have been that year that I was turning 14 that I needed him. That would have been that year. Like
Wow.
I told you, I'm big on numbers. So when he said the numbers, I said, oh yeah, that's that 14. That year I was going through hell. I know God told you something. You were supposed to have came back. You were supposed to be the one to come back to help me when my mom got sick. You were supposed to be there for me because you were okay. You took 7 years of time to get yourself together. Now she needs help, and now you're nowhere to be found. And you think I'm supposed to be happy with you. I don't,
Wow.
yeah, I don't hold on to anger or hatred in my heart because I realize people cannot give you what they don't have. I learned that, but it's true. Also, number two, sometimes when the person is not there, it's the better for you because what they would have given you would have been far much more worse than what you experienced. So God's grace and the universe, grace and mercy saved you.
Do you think not having your father in your life as a guiding force, like part of
Mm-hmm.
guiding you,
Mm-hmm.
did that impact your choice in men or who
So
you know?
possibly because the guys that I did talk to, besides one guy, which is the twins' dad, that's a whole different conversation. But the other people after that, I would say yes, because the the time that I had a father in my life, my dad and my uncles, they were good to me. So I always understood that men are supposed to be providing and protecting you. I always understood that men are supposed to lead and guide and be the head of the household. I always understood that part. So it didn't stop me from meeting good people because I did. But it did stop me from making good sound choice because imagine that you're a 7-year-old kid and you're trusting these men who are now gone. They disappeared out of the thin earth. So now why? Why? If I'm so good and I'm so great and I'm so grand, why is it easy for you to leave?
Mm,
Right? So that is something that I struggle with because I always attract good people from the start of it. But then you can only pretend to be great for so long until your true colors come out,
that's real talk.
period. And that's the same thing with my father. You pretended to act as if you could handle the role and the responsibility of being a man. And maybe it was too much for you to bargain upon. So I tend to meet people like that. They look at
Mm,
the beauty and glory. Mhm. I'm going to say it again because I said a word. They look at the outside beauty and the glory, but the embarkment of me as a person, as a whole, is too much for you to handle.
mm. I get that.
Period. Even with my father, because I'm not easily manipulated. I'm not easily controlled. I do know how to be submissive to whoever I need to be submissive with and to, because it's submissive. That word is not a boy and a girl situation. That is a
Mhm.
give and a take to people who you feel superior of you or who you want to not be superior to. That's what I learned about the word being submissive. It's not a man and a woman bowing down. It's a family situation. It is a structure at work. It's a structure in your whole life. You submit to who you feel comfortable submitting to, period. And I don't submit easily. I'm not easily just like to form and fold with whomever. And so when my dad, even as me as a child, he realized that. I think my dad felt, oh, this is too much. This is more than I can handle. And the same thing in my dating life. I end up meeting guys at the time who feel like this is more than they can handle and they want
Mm,
to leave. So recently, not even recently, a few years ago, when I would meet a guy and he felt like he was good to me or whatever, and then it was too much for him, I would allow them to leave. I wouldn't even fight for them to stay. I would like go ahead and leave. You know, if you can't handle, then go ahead and leave because I don't want to be bothered with someone who's not enough to handle me. Okay. Then it was one guy who did leave that I possibly regretted leaving. Maybe I should have put a little effort into it, a little energy into it to help him not leave because my daughters really liked him. And the three of us have not been the same since he's been gone. And so, looking back on that particular situation and thinking about my dad, I seen how the young man was folding, how he was getting weak at the moment. I could see that. But I also related to him wanting to leave, and I allowed him to. Just like when my dad left, I allowed him to. I didn't fight. I didn't say anything. I didn't stick up for myself. I didn't tell my opinion of how I felt about the matter. I just let the person go. And so a part of me regretted that after looking at it, because I should have said something, at least so the person, even if they still left, at least I won't have the regret in my heart. Like, hey, I didn't tell you that I really want to work the situation out, or that I really think that we can work this thing out, or what can we do to work this thing out. I've always been, because of my experience with my dad, I always let men leave. If they want to leave, let them leave. You know what I'm saying? That was not a top behavior from my mom or anybody, because my mom and my aunties would have fought for whatever they felt was right with a man. But me, I'm like, nah, let him go. He don't want to be here. Let his ass go. And that's not, yeah, and that's the truth. Let his ass, listen, Lord, don't hit him in the ass on the way out the door. I help you pack. You want to leave? Leave. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so, listen. So that obviously was just a defense mechanism. It was a very strong defense mechanism. And it lasted for a long time, because my kids call it cutoff game, but it's not necessarily a cutoff game. It's more of a defense mechanism, because you then to put up with something or to talk to them about whatever. That's not good, because that gives you, there's no character about you. If you can't face somebody and express yourself, even if they don't end up being with you for the better, y'all will both be better people, because now y'all both know how you were impactful to somebody, and vice versa.
Right on,
You
right
know?
on.
Yeah.
What about the twins, Dad? Was there like a love connection? We're gonna be together forever. I mean, you have twins. Like, that's so beautiful.
Girl, that baby's daddy. Okay. The twins' father was my best friend. For real. Like, best friend in the world. For real. He was my best friend. Literally. That was my dude. Okay? Literally. My boy. Ace Boom Coon. We were 14. High school. Whole best friends the whole time. We started to date. And we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have. Because the chemistry was so strong between us as friends that we should have just left it there. Because he wanted to control me. And I didn't understand the control that he wanted to have over me, because he's not very verbal at all. Now, that sounds crazy, right? He talks. He does talk. He interacts. He's fun. He's a good guy. But he has some deep-rooted emotional trauma that none of us will ever understand, because we were not ever lived in his predicament. He went through the refugee camp, wars, starvation, just all kind of things from in Africa at a time where his little area was being taken over by another group of people. So that right there was something I never knew, and something I never talked to him about, and something that I could never explain or understand. So when time goes on, as he and I were involved, issues between us are older. Now we have grown people problems. We got to pay our bills. We got to do this. We got to go be responsible. We still got to help his parents. We got to help his mom, because his family is West African and his mother was back home with his sisters. So we would have to send them money. And then he had little brothers that lived in Sacramento. So we had to take care of them too. We had to listen to his mom and dad, but we're old. We're not little kids. We're 19, 20, 18, 19, 20 years old. So he wasn't receiving the submissive behaviors that had to come with him growing up. He didn't like it. He didn't like the empowerment over him. He didn't want to be told what to do or have a structure. So we lost it. And he's a fire sign. I'm half fire sign. So we just never got back together. It never worked out. Once I became pregnant, because I was pregnant before, but that's an untold story, but I'll say it. I was pregnant before, and he was actually excited about being a father. And I was not excited about being a mother. So I terminated the pregnancy, which devastated him. So that caused a problem between the two of us. As people say, it's my kid, and the dad said, well, it's my kid too. But I'm gonna say this: no one has to agree, but this is my own belief.
That's right.
As a mother, a woman, if you have a child that you do not want to have, you're not going to give that kid the best of you. You're not going to be so happy to change a diaper, give your last food, give your last breast pump, and move you. You're not going to want to, because it's something you don't want. So you're going to be like, dealing with the baby half-assed. I didn't want that for my kid. I didn't. So everyone had an opinion around us as our family because they knew. It wasn't a secret. Everyone knew. Everyone knew what I did. I never lied. I'm not a liar. I always tell the truth. Yeah. Some people may not speak of it. I will, but it happened, and I was very clear about the reason that I did that, because it's not up to the father to be there. The mom is the one got to push you out, got to carry you, got to feed you, got to nurture you, all of those things. The dad gets to go home when he wants to, or go to bed or roll over, whatever, depending on the man. Some men are very providing and they're there all the time and they care. But for the majority of the men I've met, known in my little personal life, they leave the responsibility to the mom. They just provide the finances and they're out. And I know that raising a kid is very physical and very emotional. And at that very 20-year-old moment, I wasn't prepared. That's just the fact.
That's very mature. That's very mature of you to do that.
Yeah.
To think about all that.
Yeah, because the baby would have been in a very bad predicament. Because when I even was pregnant, now this is cold, but I'm going to tell us the truth. I didn't even want to eat because I didn't want to feed the baby. So I knew something was wrong with me. Because who's starving themselves to starve a baby? What energy is that? Honestly, What is that? What? I've never went hungry in my life. So to starve myself, to starve the baby, something wrong with you, girl? No, baby, not you. So something wrong with you, So it's like, again, the situation, you don't know what, because you can't call it, but something's wrong. I knew that. So that was that. 2 years later, I always say the Lord returned the kid that I lost the first time because I got pregnant again. The conception on that particular pregnancy wasn't something that I desired that day, but it happened and I just let it be. But he and I were not in a good space. We were like rocky. And I did not want to move forward with him. I wanted to be done. I wanted our relationship to be over, which was the reason of us meeting in the first place. But he wasn't going to just take no for an answer. He didn't want that because we had something that we were building upon. So he wanted to move forward. So he will say that I broke his heart because I wanted to leave him. And I own that because I did. I won't say I broke his heart because I didn't know I broke his heart, but I will say that I did want to end the relationship. That definitely put a damper on our relationship because he didn't even want to be my friend anymore. He wanted all of me or none of me. But at this particular point, I'm carrying 2 children. So this is not an option because we have kids that we got to raise. But he wasn't willing to be the bigger person and to see the future and to see what was important. So no matter of how much of a father he is not, I still have to be a mom. So I couldn't focus my energy on trying to get him to feel better or to feel as though he was going to be okay. He needed the friend in me to be there for him, like I used to be as a friend. He needed that from me. But at that time, I was a mother, and I didn't want to be nobody else's friend. I needed to be a mother to my 2 children. Right. So I guess in a perfect world, I would have realized that earlier on, and I probably would have befriended him a little better and nurtured him as though he had been used to getting from me. And the situation might be a little different for us. But I also realized that a person has to be responsible for their own actions. And they have to take accountability for what they've done right or they've done wrong. So in hindsight, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the young man. And so he would be able to pop in and pop out however he wanted to, because I felt like maybe this time he was ready. Maybe this time he was going to get it right. Maybe this time he was going to be the father that he knew he should have been, for what I was telling myself. But every time he came, he just made situations worse because he wasn't healing. He was living, but he wasn't fixing the problems that he was going through personally. So he was coming into my world and causing chaos. So finally, when my daughters were 5, they went off on him and decided, hey, guess what? You don't get to pop up when you feel like it. And you don't get to just be a daddy when you want to. You got to be here all the time, or we don't want you here. Because mommy is always here. Mommy picks me up. Mommy drops me off. Mommy brings me snacks. Mommy volunteers. Mommy takes me to the park. Mommy takes me to the doctor. Mommy takes me to ice cream. Mommy hangs out with my friends. Mommy reads to me. Mommy does my homework. Mommy does my clothes all the time. Every day, mommy does something for us. So you don't get to come here and call us when you feel like it. You don't get to pop up when you feel like it, because I'm not going anymore. Simple. So when the girl said that, I think I called you. I know I did. I go, Ms. Ro, you're like, listen, don't make those babies do something they don't want to do. If they don't feel comfortable, it's a reason. So don't deny how they feel. If they don't want to go, you don't got to make them go. And the same thing happened with the pediatrician, because Danny was supposed to come visit, and the girl told their pediatrician, my dad's supposed to come. I don't want to see him. Because in Vegas, I didn't have a lot of family, but the people we were in network with, we were very close. So the girls felt comfortable with the pediatrician. He had been the person that had been looking out for them since they were like newborns when we moved there. So they knew him. They felt they're very, very comfortable with that doctor. So he goes, so the girls walked off, get a little lollipop, and he grabbed me. He goes, Miss Jones. I go, yes. He goes, listen. If the girls are telling me that they're uncomfortable, they must really be uncomfortable. So you're going to have to figure it out, because kids usually don't say that about their parents. Normally, every kid is excited to see whoever, grandma, whoever. And these little girls are not excited. So there's something there that we don't know yet. But I wouldn't just send them with anybody. I would probably go to or supervise, or like not go at all. And that was his perspective. And I said, okay, so that was the second time, because I heard it from them, and then I heard it from you, and I heard it from him. The third time that someone said they didn't want to be bothered. So I tried to explain that to the dad, and he went off like he wasn't vibing with that cultural difference, you know? So then it became, we didn't hear from him no more. The girls turned 9. Then he tried to come back. And then he tried to come back again when they were 13. Now they're about to be 15. So they have a very estranged relationship. He says they act just like me. But the truth is, they actually have a lot of him in them. And I don't say that in a mean way. I just remember dealing with him when we were 13, 14. And now they're 13, 14, you know? So it's like a mirror. I'm refacing those challenges that I went through with him. Hey, be nice, talk to your dad, but listen to your dad, and don't be so grudgy. Like, what's wrong? Get it out your chest. Let's, still focus on your work. Don't trip. These are little things I can tell him. Are you being nice? Are you doing your homework? Are you getting yourself together? Like, we got things to do. We got prom coming up, whatever, there's activities. Are you in football? Did you do basketball? What are you doing? So I'm doing the same thing with them. And I do wish that the girls had a relationship, but sometimes when the other parent is very non-peaceful, I always tell the girls, don't look at it like you're not enough. He's not. And you just have to understand that he's not enough. And I don't want you to be in a situation where it's chaos only to have somebody to call father. Because, hold on, just because he's not here doesn't mean that you can't be great. Just because you don't have a 2-parent home doesn't mean that you can't proceed and prevail and be the best version of you. Sometimes you don't need 2 parents. Sometimes you just need one healthy parent that gets it.
That's real talk. That's real talk. Shanda, what is your dreams for yourself?
So My dreams for myself definitely have changed a lot, but I still want to be a businesswoman. I do see myself running companies. I wanted to back in the day. I wanted to do like social work. I wanted to have a firm of social workers, training young people how to be social workers properly, and not just in it for the money, but actually in it for the care of the kid.
Mhm.
And like seeing about the kid and seeing that the people that have them are doing their part. So that's still an idea. But now that I'm getting into it, I'm thinking I would like to be more of a psychiatrist or something, do more with the psych work for people with their mental emotional support. Because I see a lot of people suffering, and people tend to come to me and talk to me all the time anyway. So I feel like that might have been my calling. I didn't miss it because I still do. I still heed to my calling. I just didn't get paid for it. So now I
Right.
just need to get the professional documentation so that I can be paid for what I already do naturally.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've lived here in Sac, you
Hmm.
lived in LA, you
Hmm.
lived in Vegas, and
Yeah.
now you're in Dallas.
I am in Dallas.
What city do you like the most and why?
Okay.
What city really works for Shanda?
So it's a little twisted. See, because if it's working for me as a person, I'm going to say, let me see. That's a little twisted because, okay, with, I guess I will just say Dallas because Dallas actually works for both. Dallas works for me because it's an environment that supports single moms, or not even single moms, single people, period. They have it's programs here and things for people to outsource if they need to feel okay, to get yourself together, to get you back on your feet. And not even in a financial manner, just period, emotionally, financially, whatever it is. Also, the girls, this environment really, really does love and protect the children. So they have programs for them. And I love that. I really, 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 really love that. They're very supportive of the family unit. A lot of people know that I am a single mom. So they didn't know at first, but they started to find out because they were like ask the twins about their dad, and he wasn't there to say anything about him. So the teachers would call me, "Hey, Miss Jones, you know, I just want to tell you you're doing a good job with the girls. They're really delightful. I wish more kids act like your girls. I really love them. They're really great girls. You're doing a good job. Hats off to you." So they started like asking us, "Do you need therapy? Do you guys need clothes? Do you need food? Do you need help? Whatever, like, do you need something?" Sometimes I would say no if I didn't need it, but if I needed it, I said yes, And that was from the time the girls were in 7th grade all the way up until now. So we've been here since June of 2019. It's been a little rocky for me personally because I was having a hard time fitting in job wise over here because I am a very strong personality, but I also speak well. And so a lot of people were very intimidated because they have like a country thick accent and they don't pronunciate their words. So when I was going in for like an entry level job, the manager would be like, "Oh no, I'm not hiring her. She too professional. She gonna take my job." And I'm like, I had to explain to them, "Ma'am, I don't even want my job. So you know I ain't gonna take yours. Don't worry. I'm not here to steal jobs. I just want to do what I'm doing because I'm trying to do something within my time frame. Thank you for thinking I'm great, but I don't even want y'all schedule because you guys are here from 7 to 7. I'm just trying to come up in this thing from 8 to 4. Like I have my time frames because I have to be a mom. So I'm not even trying to be here all day. I'm just trying to get here, get my little paycheck so I can pick my babies up and drop my babies off and pick them back up when they get out of school. That's what I'm here for because this is not my finish. This is just something I need to do to get myself together.
Mhm.
But this ain't my stepping ground. This ain't my end of my life. This is just a
Right.
moment in time that I had to explain to people. I'm just doing this for a moment, my dear. Not here forever. So once we got over those hurdles with people feeling intimidated by my personality or just my presentation of who I am, now we're okay. But it was rough for me in the beginning because people were giving me a hard time. They were like, "Oh no, you trying to run the business." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm really not." I could, but I'm not.
What advice would you give to, say, 14-year-old Shanda?
Oh my. I would tell 14-year-old Shanda to just focus on herself. Don't worry about her family. Don't try to help them. Just be focused on you. Don't fill in the gaps of the lack of others. Just do what you have to do for yourself, because you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Right on. What advice would you give 22-year-old Shanda?
Mhm. Well, that's when I had the girls. So 22-year-old Shanda, I would have told Shanda to have balance, to find help and support, and to have balance so that you can continue to focus on your personal goals as well as embracing a new chapter of motherhood.
Right on. How old are you now?
37.
You 37. What advice are you giving yourself right now? Because 37 is like, man, like you almost
So I'm
40.
almost 40, right? So right now I've been healing. I cry and I deal with the little girl me because I know I got to step my game up. So I cry when I need to. I feel like God brought me to Dallas. This is my quiet place because I was busy. I've been busy for many years. I've been busy. I've been running and running and running. And I'm not saying running from no one. I'm saying like
No,
running,
no,
busy, doing
like a
stuff.
race. I get that.
So like this is gonna sound crazy, but like since I moved here, I moved into my own place in 2020, so January 2020. For like the first time, I had enough food to feed myself and my babies. That was crazy. Because normally I would have a meal and I could like divide it between my daughters and my auntie, and I wouldn't eat because I didn't have enough, and I didn't have the heart to tell them they were hungry, so I let them eat. Never told them that couldn't eat. So I gained weight, which is so great for me because I was hungry before, but now I'm not hungry. Um, I was sleeping for the first time. Normally, I only rest 2, 3 hours out of a day, and I'm talking for years. But when I moved here, COVID happened, and this is not to disrespect anybody, but for me, I felt personal because it was my first time that I could stay home and I was okay. All my bills were taken care of. I didn't have to rip and run. I didn't have to do anything. I could just literally stay home. I've never stayed home before because before that, I was staying with other people when I was younger, as a child in high school or whatever. And then when I became an adult, I was staying with my aunt. We were roommating together because of the girls. I had to be able to afford them. So this was literally for my life at that time, 35, the first time that I actually was able to rest and be
Mm.
peaceful and not have no distractions or interactions or anything. So these last years that I've been dealing with, I've been feeling my mom a lot spiritually. So I just been healing and trying to be a better person. Um, Definitely has some like lashing out with my daughters because I'm a warm person and they're very cold sometimes. So it hurt. Their behavior is personal to me and it hurt. It wasn't definitely wasn't like the normal teenage mom behavior because I don't know how it feels to have a mom and interact with people. But I spoke to you and some other moms, and they told me that that's how teenagers are at this time. They rebel and they have this little thing. But I didn't have anyone to act like that with because my mom wasn't home. And so you better not talk to my sisters like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they're your sisters, they'll beat you up. So I never had that chance. I didn't even know kids act like that, because I never acted like that. So I didn't know that was a normal thing. So I had to learn that and be okay with that. But the advice I give to myself is to heal every day. Don't live in my past and to forgive myself for the mistakes that I did make, even knowingly, not knowing, and most of them unknowingly because I didn't have the proper guidance. But the things I did knowingly, just to forgive myself. I don't have hatred with other people, so forgiving others has never been a problem for me because I get it. For some reason, I'm very patient with others, and I get it. Like, okay, well, they just didn't know, or they don't. they're not there, or their mind doesn't allow them to even go there, or their spirituality is not in tune enough, and they're definitely not on the incline. So when other people dealing with them, forgiving others, no big deal. But forgiving myself has been a hard problem for me because I've been with myself all this time. And it's like, okay, girl, you cannot let yourself down. You know that you're all you've ever had. So why are you doing this to yourself? Stop it. Yeah.
Shanda, thank you so much for making time to talk with me
Yes,
today.
and thank you.
I just in hearing you talk, I just God, you're a grown woman.
I know. I am grown.
Because you've always been like, you've always had like grown people's energy.
Yes.
Even when I never forget the time we had to sleep over and you came over and the living room was full of young women and sleep over and you had us dying because you were like calling like some of your friends and the girls were cracking up. And you were so funny because you were saying, he gonna say this, I'm gonna say this. And the girls were cracking up. But you always had a way of imparting wisdom to them. And you weren't that much older than them. You know what I mean? But
like
you was
2
like,
and 3 years older.
Yeah, you was like, no, don't do that because then and they would be like, oh, okay. You like, yeah, don't do that. So I just, there's just so many memories of you being always to me mature.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And I had to be because my mom made me responsible for my niece and nephew. I was 2 when my sister got pregnant with her first baby. And my mom told me, gave me my little niece, and her name is Paris, gave me Paris and was like, listen, that's your baby. And you got to do right because she's watching you. So no matter what you do, they're going to watch you. So you can say what you want to say, but what are you doing? Because that's what they're going to watch what you're doing. So you got to watch what you're doing.
And you are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
No, seriously, you're doing a fantastic job. And sometimes when you think you haven't gotten something that you think everybody else has gotten, you really got something else. And sometimes people, what I've learned is people who we think have everything sometimes aren't good. They're not good at living. But because when you're lacking certain things, you become really good at what you think you didn't have. So you're probably more involved in your kids than people who got both parents. Because I've seen kids who have both parents and still feel like they have no one.
It's true. And I've learned that.
Damn thing, like what you talking about? But that one mom who's just, or parent that's just struggling, but she knows the importance of having someone be there. See, you got that lesson that a lot of our parents kind of didn't get because they were trying to survive and they were working. But you understand, like, okay, I got to survive too, but I really want to invest in my children so they don't, so they'll start off more fuller than you were.
Absolutely. And I will say one thing because because of kids, my daughter's friends, they go, Miss Jones, you're our favorite mom. We love you because you're always there for us. I was like, oh. And that touched my heart, because it's true. And also the children do feel comfortable talking to me. I make them feel safe. And I love that. I love that about me. Because maybe we didn't have people to feel safe with. So I love that other people's children and my girls too can feel safe with me with every topic.
Yeah.
You can feel safe. That's important. That's very, very important.
That's real talk. That's real talk. The other thing too, Shanda, is that you are a part of the generation who was the first full generation outside of the crack era. We sleep on the crack era. We act like, oh, it's just something that happened. No, that dismantled
real
communities. Yeah, it really dismantled. And so we were like kind of making it on like broken pieces, which is what we always do. But I'm just saying, like, you could totally see the impact. So the fact that you had to kind of come of age and teach yourself a lot of things, so changes the trajectory for your children's children.
Yes.
Based upon what Shanda's doing.
Yeah. And you know what? That's true. I was talking to one of my other friends and we were talking and we go, did you realize none of us had a mom? I go, yeah. I told you guys that when we were in the 9th grade. It was 30 of us, for real. And 30 of us did not have a mom. We were all living with somebody else. Every last one of us. And every last one of us had either two parents on crack or one. For real. For real. Straight up, strung out. Straight up. So to this day, kids be like, you want to... I don't smoke no weed, no hookah, cigarette, sick of weed, vape, none of that. Do not. Because it was such an impactful negative experience on my personal head that I don't want nothing to do with it. If y'all want to experiment, I'll sit with you. I'm not going to judge you. I don't want nothing to do with it.
Yep, that's me. That's me too.
I don't want you
so
do
true.
you. I'll wait for you in the living room, whatever you do you. But I'm not doing it. It's because it's too personal to me. Because if crack was a person, I'd knock him out, you know? I'd knock him out. I ain't lying. If crack was a person, I'd knock him out because he ruined that energy, that drug, ruined many of my relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally changed everything. Like
and people don't get that. They really don't understand it. They be sleeping on it. And I'm like, y'all don't even know we survived some stuff. The little 83 to 93 kids, we survived some stuff that nobody want to talk about because everybody was high. So nobody could talk to you about it because everybody was high. Who wasn't?
That's real talk.
Name a person that wasn't high, and I give you $100.
That's real talk, Shanda. That's real talk. So thank you, sis. Thank you for
I love you so much.
Don't jump off yet. Let me just wrap this up.
Yeah,
y'all. Thank y'all for joining us on Sunday Sip with Sisters, and I'll be back next week. Thank you, Shanda.
You're welcome.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.